Hey, Mr.
It wasn't.
Jason.
They didn't tell us not to.
Uh-oh. Mr. Jason.
Yeah, Mr.
Ooh.
Craig.
I'm especially fired up about this one because it's somebody that I know so well.
Yeah, and he's been on here before, and now it's round dos.
Duh. Why don't you introduce?
Part D. This is Neal Tricarico, sales producer, pounds powerful processes preventing poor production.
Well, let's pound it out. Powie.
Buckle up, it's the Insurance Dudes podcast.
Hey, Craig, this year I got some crazy growth goals for my agency, and actually I've been talking to a few other agents. They got some crazy growth goals. So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing that's just crushing it in your agency right now?
Yeah, well, we're doing a lot of internet data leads through a company called EverQuote, and they're actually one of our sponsors.
Ooh.
Yeah,
So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, part of the Accelerated Growth Program, which includes having your own consultant that's going to go over your results, and it's positioned to make those leads cost less so that you have lower acquisition costs. It makes it totally doable.
Awesome. And so what has been your favorite parts about it so far?
I like the visibility into the results, and being able to compare what the numbers that they get on their side with the numbers that I get on my side, and seeing that they mesh up. So we know that the data is correct, and that we're actually in a cost per policy or cost per sale that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
Cool.
They make it real easy to track. And you know what? Guess what? They gave us a deal to offer to all of the insurance dudes and dudettes out there.
Oh, I got to know about this.
Yeah, all you need to do is go to go.everquote.com/insurance dudes. That's go.everquote.com/insurance dudes.
And they give all the insurance dudes out there a killer price on this. So I'm signing up. Boom!
Boom!
Neal!
Oh, boom,
Neal.
baby! You gotta
Boom.
participate in that.
Yeah, you got to join the boom.
It's the boom intro.
Yeah.
We have somebody that's going to be helping us doing the editing from now on. And I said that specifically in the notes, like, it's the boom. As soon as the boom happens,
Boom.
that's it.
Yeah. Then we're
Boom is our
going.
blast off. Let's do it.
Blast off.
Neal, thank you so much for coming to the dudes. Number
It's good to
two.
be back on the dudes. Talk about boom. You guys are blowing the F up. So happy for
Yes.
you guys, adding so much value to the insurance space. It's epic. Good on you.
We love it. Well, this year has been crazy because it's a year that we all need to grow, and we need to push our sales team. And I thought, who better to give us some tactical, some actual actionable things that we can do than Neal?
Yeah.
I'm glad to be on and honored to be brought back. Any way I can add value to what you guys are doing, that's what I'm about.
Awesome. And kind of like sorry, Craig.
No, you go.
I'm excited.
I know.
I was going to say,
I'll sit back here in the corner. I talked to Neal.
I was going to say the four things that we really focus on with our podcast and in our agencies is hiring, training, motivating, and marketing. Those have become the big pillars of our agencies, and I think that a lot of that comes with process and tactics. And I know that you have so much knowledge in that, especially leading, your team with Tony Robbins, and then also Agency Vault. So I know it's not just insurance that you have those tactics with. It's like sales in general. It's a high stuff.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And, of those four, I think today where I could bring the most value will be on the psychology, right? So the motivation, if you will, and then the training. And,
Awesome.
I learned this from Tony, but it's common sense. I mean, all sales success, it's 80% psychology, 20% strategy or training. And what I can share, what we're seeing out in our world, and also what we're seeing in the agency vault world, about 6 weeks into 2020, is the real chokehold right now. It's broken down into three things. Sales management and sales training processes are not delivering the desired growth. So what do I mean? Likely it's failing to reflect the best practices across an organization, or in your case, an agency. So what happens is we've got a variance from team to team and from rep to rep, right, within your organization. So what that means is there's not a consistent set of highly effective practices that are going to produce your team's best results. And again, that's likely because we don't have standards. We don't have a training process in place. So we can motivate until we're blue in the face, but if we don't have a consistent training process, we're going to really struggle with that. And then lastly, we have inconsistent sales results, right? We've got our top performers who are producing 20% of the results, and the next, the 80% of the results are being produced. The top 20% are producing 80% of your results. And that could be because as we're going into this year and we've got changes in comp and things like that, there's a gap in agencies owners' abilities to hold their people accountable for performance, right? I mean, would you guys agree that's the chokehold, or really what's that issue here as we're starting this year?
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think a lot of agencies too. I keep cutting you off, Greg.
Go for it.
No, you go.
Well, I was going to ask, why do you think that agency owners, and I mean, you've heard from me a million times, but I'd like to hear it from you. Why do you think agency owners have that happen, where they get blasted in other directions or whatnot, and aren't able to deliver that consistency to their staff?
Yeah, great question, Craig. And I want to share with you the truth. It's not just agency owners, right? In my world at Tony Robbins and working with businesses, it's business owners across all industries. And so what happens is we become quickly operators in our own business, right? So we either start way ahead or most likely start behind, and we've got to grind, we've got to sell, we've got to work in our business instead of on our business. And all this stuff is fundamental, and you may find it to be cliche, but it's true. When we're operators and we haven't installed systems and structures to manage people and hold them accountable, we end up just having jobs in our business. So the areas that we're focusing on, and I want to see, I think where I can add more value is making sure that organizations are the three areas of focus that we're focusing on, really to raise the results of salespeople, is how are we tracking sales performance, right? What metrics are we using to track performance? Number two is trainings, right? Individual, team, and group trainings to build consistency. And then the third is one-on-one coaching and accountability. You're always going to have bronze, silver, and gold players. So how are you within those mechanisms one-on-one training? So I know it's a really long answer to your short question. Why does this happen? It happens because owners fall into the operator mentality, and they fall into the operator mentality because they don't have these three things and fall back on and make sure and ensure they're tracking performance metrics, they're training to build consistency, and they're providing one-on-one coaching and accountability to raise the standards and performance of their reps. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah. Putting out fires. They end up putting out a lot of fires, right?
They do. And then if you become proficient at firefighting, you're going to create fires where they may not exist. But if you're doing the things to make sure that results are being produced, clients are being served, then you're out in front of stuff.
That's really interesting. So if you're a firefighter, you're going to find fires when there may not even be a fighter, right? Because that's now the behavior that as the agency owner you've become. So you're looking for fires when there isn't one, right? You're jumping over here and yeah, it's
prolific. I mean, it's not only happening in the insurance space, but it's happening everywhere else, right? And that's where you're telling yourself, well, I've got to do this. There's constantly fighting. And when you're in a reactive mode, it really grooves that's who you are as chief firefighter. And it creates the culture of your organization, as opposed to having these things in place, a measurable scoreboard where you can track and measure performance, where you've got consistent trainings. And not only trainings, you've got a specific step-by-step sales process that your team is being trained on, they're being tracked and measured against. And then ultimately you've got that accountability, because actually, Jason, one of the things you mentioned, hiring, when you get into one-on-one coaching and accountability, you're always top grading, right? Those bronze players, if they're not moving into silver, are being shipped out. And it's a commitment. It's a psychological commitment to having these systems in place. And then it's executing them independent of whatever fires are coming up.
So when you're doing, I know the Tony Robbins, all the stuff you do with him, I know that's a high ticket item. I mean, how do you guys do that with that team? I mean, that's got to be incredible. How do you guys strategize that?
Well, yeah, I mean, were you talking about the business mastery event?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a high ticket item, but people will realize very quickly that, you know, it's costing them far more than $10,000 in lost opportunities and revenue by continuing to fight fires, you know? And so in our world, we're able to guarantee a result, because when people pay, they pay attention. And so they're not coming and learning and consuming things. I mean, you know, truthfully, this is great. Podcasts are great. Learning all this stuff is great, especially because it's free. But let's be very real. Knowledge isn't power anymore. Execution trumps knowledge every day of the week. If your listeners did everything that each of your guests came in and taught, they would be in the top 0.1% of the organization. But everybody feels good as overstimulated underachievers consuming content and tips and tricks, as opposed to taking action on what's really actually being taught. Only about 3 to 10% of your listeners in the world will actually take action on that. And that's why there's that difference between the haves and have-nots. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And you talked about psychology. Do you think that the reason why agency owners or business owners in general don't take action is it's some kind of psychological block, or what's preventing somebody from doing that?
Yeah, it's less a block per se, and more that they don't have the space and capacity within their mind to commit to the systems and structures that will support that. Because when the day starts, almost from moment one, they're reacting. A sales rep is out. Somebody is calling in sick. There's a big cat, whatever it is, and they're quickly reacting to that. And I thought of it. I just want to circle back for a second, because I never thought about it in this way. But as we talk about the firefighting, you know, the firefighters are fighting fires, but what are they doing the majority of their time, fellas?
They're just busy work.
No, think about it more. What are they doing?
Working in the business.
No, those firefighters back at the firehouse, they're constantly training. Okay,
that's true.
A very small percentage of their time is actually spent fighting fires. The majority of their time is spent with their captains and their trainers training on fire scenarios. So when they get into those scenarios and their lives are at stake and they're saving lives, their physiology and their psychology has already been there. So it's so fascinating. We use this idea of firefighting as something that we do 90% of the time, when firefighters likely only do it 5 to 10% of the time, and the other 90% of the time they're training. That's where our agency owners and business owners must function as fire captains, is on the training and producing the results.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And, you know, installing systems can be this giant headache and you don't see that immediate result. And so I think that maybe that's the fear. There's the more complicated you get with like a lead management system or some, tactic that you install, it takes all this time up front and you're not seeing anything come of it. But then once it's in place, it's like, oh, now it's set it and forget it, right? Because the thing works. And so grabbing those correct tools and then just going into it and making it happen, I guess that's the execution piece.
And it's part of it. Sorry, Jason, this is an interesting piece because we're actually going through this in our world right now. I want to differentiate sales strategy from sales system and software. So we're, just being very raw and real, we're installing some new systems in our business, and they're going to do great things in terms of tracking and measuring content and outreach and things like this. But the challenge is if you install a sales technology, which is supposed to improve efficiencies and things like that, lead management systems, sales tracking, contacts, if you haven't first built the sales strategy behind it, then these software installations are doomed to fail because they're often confused with an opportunity to fix a problem. You must build the strategy first and then use systems and technology to create efficiencies, right? So for example, if you're prospecting, or even if you're working with an existing client and you're always sending a new email for the first time, now you may be saying the same thing or close to the same thing every time. It's not super efficient or effective to keep doing that or even save it as an email signature. But when you have systems where you can use technology or something like Outreach to create templates of those best practice emails, where they be emails, texts, voicemails, now you've created an efficiency that will create leverage for you. But if those things aren't built and tested first and known to produce results, then it's going to create more work and more fire, and that's going to bring down the sales reps' psychology.
Yeah. It's a tool. The tool can't be the leader. The person has to be.
You're exactly right. 1,000%.
I was going to say, we make thousands of phone calls a day in our agency between everyone. Our contact rate is super low. I mean, that's just the day and age that we live in. So when we get somebody on the phone or something, we better be firing on all cylinders.
Yes.
Yes. And we train 2 times a day. We have meetings and we train and at first I was like, this takes up so much time. Like they need to be on the phones because you can't get people on the phones, right? So intuitively, you originally think like, meetings and training, it's taking up time because we need to get these people on the phone. But the problem is once they're on the phone, then it's like, we'll listen to the call and it's like, dude, you completely lost it. The person said this and you did this. And then they're like, oh yeah. But then we're back to the drawing board. We need 100 more calls to get the next person on the phone.
And Jason, if you're doing that with your team, you are statistically part of less than 1% of businesses that are training their teams twice a day. And you hit the nail on the head, whether it's using that firefighter analogy, the training is the most important piece. Right? Because if the activity is the easy part. I mean, people get confused. It's like, if you have reps on your team that are afraid of the phone or not doing the activity, like that's the easy part. If you're going to make hundreds of calls and reach very few, like that part's easy. You could do that. It's mindless, but you must be prepared to add value when that person answers and they're ready to go. And that's where I commend you and that 1% that are doing that. You're going to have the most results. The conversation always goes to, I can't afford to take my reps off the phone. Well, you can't actually afford to have your reps on the phone and not produce results.
Right.
That's what you really can't afford.
Yeah, you're just
right.
And those of you that are
right, and those of you that are recording those calls, and at the end of the night, just take a half an hour or an hour and play back those calls. We think about Tony Robbins all the time and it's outstanding, but if you guys aren't aware of Chet Holmes, God rest his soul, he passed away a few years ago, a dear mentor of mine. He wrote the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. I mean, every one of your reps on this call must have that book under their pillow at night, The Ultimate Sales Machine. But what we used to do is just every night from 5 to 5:30, he would pull up a call or two, right? And it was like, you just would press play. And we were like, oh, I hope it's not my call. But the reality of it is when it was my call and he broke down the tape, that next day I went and produced my best results ever. And think about everywhere else that exists, right? I hate to use sports analogies, but in the NFL, like the offense or the defense, whomever, when the offense is not on the field, when the defense is on the field, the offense is seated. They're reviewing the tape. They're literally watching the last series of plays in real time. They're breaking down the plays, what went well, what didn't go right. So when they get back out on the field in a few minutes, they're executing at the highest levels, right? And that's when the game absolutely changes. I mean, honestly, 80% of this is common sense, but only 20% of you guys are using it.
Yeah, I always talk to agents and I say it's so funny. Like insurance is the one area that people take a different swing every time at bat or every time they get up. Like golfers take the same swing. It's not about hitting the ball necessarily. It's about perfecting that swing so you can predict where the ball's going. Yes,
1,000%.
And so many times, and even when I first started, it was all like every pitch was different. Like you'd hear it's the same product. You're literally talking about the same thing every day, multiple times a day, but you're explaining it completely differently. And it's like, why? It should be the same.
Because it didn't work the last time, but
right.
Matter, right? Because it's like, it didn't work the last time because that was a different person, not we need to change the how we deliver it each time to try to make it work because every person's different. So, so 15% are going to say yes if you're consistent with your delivery.
Yes, that's right. True that.
20% or whatever the number is, right?
What are some actionable, so we know there's a need. What are some actionable steps that some insurance dudes or dudettes can start implementing today to get them on the creating those good habits and getting on that fast track?
Yeah, you've got to, as an individual, you have got to have a system, something that you can hold yourself accountable to, call in and call out, right? And as an agency owner, if you don't already have a sales system, basically we call it a sales training and accountability system. We track the life of our leads, right? In marketing, that's what marketing does, is it tracks the quality and life of a lead, right? If your organization is big enough and you have sales operations, they'll track the activity of the lead. But the most important thing that we're not doing is tracking and measuring the impact of a sales rep on a sales prospect, and this is what we teach. This is what, Craig and I are doing with Agency Vault all the time. Sales reps must focus on 7 things. They've got to move from a transactional relationship where the outcome is to sell insurance. They must focus on uncovering what's most important to the client or prospect, right? And again, that's the protection of their family and assets. And so the 7 steps focus on, first, number 1 is shifting your focus, right? You've got to make sure that your focus is not on your needs, selling this transaction, meeting your quota, providing for your family. You got to shift your focus to their needs. When you come from that place of client or prospect first, it's going to create the space, the capacity for the second step, which is to establish rapport. And I can't impress upon you guys enough, not some old school BS rapport where you're going to the website to see what their interests are, their hobbies are. It's true rapport, trust and respect, right? Established rapport is defined by trust and respect. And about 45% of your ability to succeed, to enroll this person for insurance, is going to come down to your ability to build that trust and respect. So you don't want to be anywhere near pitching. You want to build rapport, build connection, right? Once you've done that, then you've created the trust and respect to diagnose needs, right? If we're going to solve for the most important outcome of protecting somebody's family and assets, we need to understand what those are and why they're so important. What happens is we get into the tyranny of how, which is, present solution, ask for sale, overcome objections. We must focus on the what is the outcome to protect them? Why must we do it? And then ask those questions. And when we've done that and we've uncovered 2 or 3 reasons why that's important, then we've earned the right to present our solution, right? So that's where we pitch or we offer insurance, right? That's where the value is. And then again, when we've done that well, we want to make sure before that prospect gets off the phone that they're able to articulate back to us or back to your rep why this is something they must do. We train our reps all the time. It's called the turn, right? Where you literally ask, Jason, I'm curious, why must you move forward with Feldman Insurance, right? And if they can't articulate it, it's an awkward situation, but now they're going to tell you the reasons, the objections. But when they can articulate it, when they name those 2 or 3 things that you uncovered, you get to move to enrollment, which is fantastic. But if they don't, it's also fantastic because they're going to say, well, I'm not sure, Jason, or I need to check with my wife, Jason, or I'm getting a better deal over here, Jason. And then you say, is there anything else? What else? What specifically? And then you can start through an objection handling process to overcome those and then enroll. And it's beautiful, guys. It's simple, but it's a discipline of training on it, tracking and measuring on it. And when we get back to that Chet Holmes mentality, when you're listening to those calls, you can literally close your eyes and feel where rapport is lost or won, where we've had that situation come up where they haven't uncovered the value. And we can work in those specific areas as opposed to just focus on activities or other things that aren't as important.
Let me give you an objection that we hear all the time. I hear it from the LSPs as I train them, and I hear it from agency owners as you talk about the steps and applying. So in our world, it's a commodity. Everybody wants the cheapest deal, and we just need to. They want it fast. We just need to present them this cheap thing, and we can't win because we're more expensive. So it's this, this cycle of, well, we're more, but we can't offer the value. How do we unwind that mindset that both the consumer has, that our that our producers have, and that the agency owners have, right? It's a cultural thing.
Sure. Well, so I'm gonna put you on the hot seat. Play with me, role play with me, because we can't unwind. The environment has created the culture that insurance is a commodity. But my question is, what could be more important than the protection of your family and assets? So role play with me. Let's play.
Hey Neal, I want to get the home and auto quote, but I'm in a real rush, and I'd like you just to put it together, get me the best deal, and then email it over.
Sure, and Craig, I'm happy to get this to you, but in our world at Tricarico Insurance, our outcome is not to get you the lowest quote or get this over to you in the fastest possible way until we've ensured that what I'm going to send over to you more than meets your needs. So I would need a little bit of breathing room here to uncover 2 or 3 top needs to really be able to do that. Not just provide you a number, but provide you something that's valuable, because I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't focus on understanding what's most valuable to you, your family and your assets. So we just don't blindly send that over. Is now a good time to take 10 minutes to do that? Or if you're in a rush, would you be better served to schedule some time tomorrow or the next day?
Love it.
Yeah.
Because so I'm meeting them where they are. I understand they want it fast and lowest, but they're not realizing, because they're trained for commodity, that's not what's most important to them. So I want to tell them, yes, I can give you what you want, and I want to make sure though that what I'm giving you, what you think you want, is what you actually need. Okay. So this is where our experience at Pretzinger Agency is of most value to, is uncovering the distinction between what you think you want and what you actually need. So what I'm understanding from you is you're rushed. That's fine. As long as you can give me a professional commitment, we can find a time that's better for you, but I need that breathing room to take a few minutes to uncover what's really most valuable to you, so that the insurance can meet what it's actually designed to do, which is to protect you.
Yeah,
it's not designed for us to compete on quotes.
I get all that, Neal, but the last time I got a quote, I gave them the information, they just spit out the number, and I was able to make a decision. Is that something you can't do?
It's something we can do, but I'm curious, why are we even on the phone then? If last time you did that, why aren't you still with them?
Well, they weren't the best when we had a claim, so I'm a little pissed off, but I'd like to just, wrap this up real quick.
All right, cool. So do I have just a little bit of breathing room, to be honest and real with you?
Sure.
Yeah, so part of the reason they'll be able to offer the lowest possible price is to be able to meet those needs. There's not going to be support. There's not going to be somebody who cares for you and who's going to take care of you in those times of catastrophe. So it doesn't equate that somebody is going to be there and support you and it be rock bottom. Rock bottom often leads to, I'm pissed off and now I'm looking elsewhere. And I want to share with you, Craig, all day, every day, all we're hearing is the catastrophes. And some of them are really bad. Losing a child, losing a parent, an entire family being wiped out. Some of them are just a fender bender. And so I invite you to consider that this time we're going to spend together could possibly, over the course of our relationship together, be that important, as opposed to being rushed because somebody pissed you off because you paid them so little some months back.
Okay. I'll listen.
Hell yeah. Okay. And you see how I paused there? I mean, if we got
Right.
your reps to really focus on those things and share those stories, guys, those are the clients you want anyways. You need to take
Right.
this money and it's going to be there for maybe 6 months, or you're going to have clients. Okay. What is prolific in this space, in this commoditized space, is customers. Customers are transactional. They want the lowest price. And in return for that lowest price, when they have a fender bender, they're going to be pissed off and get somewhere else. But when we have clients are under the care and guidance of an expert. You guys need to be creating in this space agency owners with expertise. So when those catastrophes do come up, these human beings are served at the highest levels. And every day of the week, those human beings will pay more for that level.
I think people are afraid, like how you started addressing like what their pain points were and stuff. I think people are really afraid to go there. Like they're afraid to deviate from the sale. Like I got to stay on the sale. I got to stay on the path. And it's like where you kind of met him where he was at and then kind of dug in, like what's going on here? Like, you know what I mean?
And you need to paint the picture of pain. The people that get into fender benders are super lucky, okay? But the people that lose life and limb or savings, I mean, that's the real stuff.
Right.
Yep. It's
Helping
true.
Helping them understand that this coverage, it's for your worst day ever. Right. It's for the day that nobody wants to have. But I'll tell you, when you have state minimum on your worst day, there's problems.
It could change your life in the most horrible way. You know, and you guys have to, everything you're doing is great, and keep championing that message. Like the question you're really asking me is, when we say, how do we unwind this space as a commodity? You guys need to be champions for the freedom of insurance for what it really actually is. Insurance. You know, I mean, what could be more important than your family, your assets and everything you've worked so hard for. But we'll pay more for a Starbucks instead of making coffee at home. We'll pay more for the iPhone instead of the Android. Pay more for Tumi luggage instead of the luggage from Costco. There's a reason we do all that, but nothing can be more important than this. Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy too. I mean, when you think about pleasure and pain, everybody thinks that everybody's pleasure driven. But if that was the case, there would be a lot more people trying to earn more money or something.
Yes.
We're always driven by pain. It's always
Yes.
that, like, when something happens, it's like, oh crap, now I got to do it. Like I didn't feel like I had to do it before, but now that I'm in trouble, now I feel like I have to do it.
Mm.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, listen, people will move far faster to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure, right? And so you have to put them in pain. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, but every day some policy is being paid out for something, pretty damn painful.
Yep. Yeah. And I think too, as agency owners, we don't convey a lot of the stuff that we see behind the scenes. And I was doing that to my sales team because they're sales and service. So the service sees a lot of this stuff. And then I see on the back end how much these claims are, where the sales team don't see that. So if they knew that there was a $500,000 to $700,000 claim being paid out, they would definitely, it would become more real.
Yeah, I think you bring up an important breakthrough, Jason. Your teams should listen in, spend a day in the life of once a month or an hour a week on the service side of things, and really have it be a part of their physiology, what's actually happening to these clients when they're insured and when they're not properly insured, because that will change the man or woman that they're bringing to those calls.
Yep. Cool. So, I mean, these are some awesome actionable tips that we can take today. What would be the number one piece of advice you would give regarding sales to any salesperson in any industry?
Great question. It was taught to me by my dear friend and mentor, Steve Lashansky. Price is only an issue when the value is not clear. So when you're talking about commodities, all they're focused on is price. But when you as a sales rep, your most important responsibility is to uncover the value that would make it worth investing in. When you uncover that value, price becomes almost irrelevant. But if you let them focus on price and you don't have for yourself a moral obligation to uncover that value that would make it worth investing in, you're done. When you do, your whole life will change as a sales performer. Price is only an issue when the value of what you're selling is not clear.
And this is true in any space.
Yeah.
It's true in life. It's true in relationships.
Even gas, right? Gasoline, if you go to Shell, is going to be more. And there's people that go to Shell because they put whatever, it has different stuff. So you can see it even in the most commoditized of commodities.
Yeah. And the great news is that this occurs in nature, right? This occurs in our most important relationships. I mean, shoot, one of the things we offer for Unleash the Power Within is free business-to-business training, where we have one of Tony's top trainers come into a business and train them on it. And it's amazing, even though the training is complimentary, we'll never use the word free, there's still a price to it, because a decision maker has to decide, I want to spend this time and I want my 10 to 200 reps to spend this time. So the price is that time. So if the rep hasn't unlocked the value that would make it worth investing in that time for that team, they haven't enrolled for that experience. Does that make sense?
Yep. So, and I know you guys have some training. So, I mean, how can, an agent, if they want some great training, what would you suggest?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked. And Craig really asked me about this as, we're reviewing these first 6 weeks of the year. We're producing extraordinary results with our consulting clients, but we wanted to put together a boot camp. And this boot camp is going to be laser beam focused for agency owners and their teams on those 3 strategies that we talked about in terms of installing training, focusing on psychology, and having a grading system so that we can work with one-on-one, individuals to improve their results. So the boot camp is going to be March 17th, 18th, and 19th. So write those days down. That's going to be the immersion, March 17th, 18th, and 19th. But if any of us know, when we go to an event and experience, eventually those things will wear off. So this is going to be done over Zoom in real time. We're going to immerse ourselves on the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And then we're going to have specific accountability sessions for the 3 weeks following. So those are going to be the 24th, the 31st, and the 7th. So the only thing that matters is what results are we producing once we've built this muscle, once we've built this training. And that's what we're going to focus on for those 3 weeks coming out of it. And then Craig, you tell me, is there a link that they're going to click on from here? How does that work? How will they get involved?
For sure. Yep. It'll be over on the Agency Vault site, and we'll post the link in the show notes, and it's down below. And there'll be a special page for Insurance Dudes listeners where they can get a little bit of a incentive to sign up before this thing fills up.
Ooh,
Great.
a dude's discount.
A dude's discount. And we haven't
Love
done this before. I don't think we have, but if there are any of your listeners that would be interested in attending anything, from Tony Robbins, whether that be Unleash the Power Within or Business Mastery, I'm happy to arrange that. Always happy to do that. For this particular boot camp, we're going to be focusing on the application of these core strategies to the agency environment. I'm pumped. Craig and I are going to be coming out at an event together, dropping in and doing this and delivering this for your world.
Yeah.
Love it.
Awesome.
Maybe a live of us walking across the coals.
That'd be epic.
Do they do the calls at every event?
No, only Unleash the Power Within.
Love
I have
it.
not done it before. I'm a little worried.
Yeah. We got to get you out there too, Jason.
Oh, I love it, man.
Awesome.
So
we start this thing with a boom. How do we end it?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. You guys better come up with something to end it, because in sales, it doesn't matter where we start. It matters where we finish, baby. So I hope that people take 1 or 2 of these 3 things, or whatever you've taken from this, and go execute on it. Drop them a comment. We want to hear from you about it. The thing that fills me up selfishly the most is when people respond and say, I did X and it was resulted in Y. I don't want to hear that it was a great podcast, or I learned so much. That's a bunch of BS. I don't care how much you've learned. I want to understand what results. How did that knowledge result in something for you? So I love that you guys start with the boom, because how we start anything is who and what we bring. But I really invite you to consider how you're going to end some things as well, because that's what's going to leave them.
Well, you know what? They can join there's an Agency Vault Facebook group. Go in there and post, what you're gonna take action on.
Awesome.
And if you're not a member of it, then join it. Yeah.
Yeah, join us. And hey, I appreciate you guys. I'm honored by the opportunity to come on and add value to your listeners whenever I can.
Nice.
Thank you, Neal. Let's end with a boom.
Let's end with a boom.
Boom.
Boom. All right.
All right.
Down the road, brother. Jason, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up one of our sponsors, EverQuote.
Oh, tell me a little bit about them.
Well, I've been using them for a couple months, and I'll tell you that the results are delightful. It's been now a couple months, and over time, my cost per sale has dropped every single week.
That is awesome. Tell me, so you're on a specific program with them?
Yeah, it's called the Accelerated Growth Program. And this bad boy gets you a better deal on those leads, so way less expensive. And you get a consultant that's going to actually go over your results to make sure you're tracking properly.
And so you've been doing that for the last couple of months and consulting with them?
Yeah. And I see everybody complain about leads and this and that. And it's like, look, if you don't have a process to track and measure your results, then I can totally get it. You don't even know what your results are, right?
And you asked them to give all the insurance dudes and dudettes out there a killer deal on this, and they came through, didn't they?
They came through, and I know you're going to take advantage of it, but if they go to go.everquote.com/insurance dudes, that's go.everquote.com/insurance dudes, then guess what?
What?
Deal City.
I'm there.
Do it.
Hey, you've got to check out the Insurance Dudes Inner Circle coming soon, where you get extended interviews as well as live coffee talks in our private Facebook group. Join the mailing list today at theinsurancedudespodcast.com. Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.